Okay, Gimel, starting at Gimel Ches.
Starting at Gimel Chetz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Additionally, Rebbe Yehuda said a person may stipulate a condition concerning a basket on the first day of Yom Tov and eat it on the second. And also an egg laid on the first day may be eaten on the second, but the Chachamim did not agree with him. Reb Dosa ben Harkness says, he who leads the prayers on Yom Tov and Rosh Hashanah says, fortify us, O Hashem, our God, on this Rosh Kodesh, whether it's today or whether it will be tomorrow. And then tomorrow it says, whether it is today or whether it was yesterday, but the Chachamim did not agree with him. The one who was taken out by Gentiles or by an evil spirit has only 4 cubits. If they brought him back, it is as if he never left. If they took him to another town, or if they put him in a folder in a corral, Rabbi Gamilber and Elazar ben Azariah say he may transverse his entirety. Rabbi Yeshua and Akiva say he has only 4 Abbas. It once happened that they arrived in Princeton and their ship went out to sea. Rabbi Gamil and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah transversed its entirety. Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva did not move out of 4 cubits because they wished to be strict with themselves. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just putting my bookmark in the right place. Okay. And Pam achas lo nichnasu lenamal ad shechashecha. So while we're talking about ship stories, um, there was one time when they were on the ship, and I wonder, like I often wonder if like all these stories were actually the same story. You know, the one where they were Mastros, and this one where they did they enter the Tchumen time, or did they were they on the inside inside the area, were they allowed to walk inside the ship? And so one time they were coming to port, and it was the sun was going down, and now they docked after Shabbos was already in. Amru lo Rabban Gamliel ma anu lered. They said, "Well, are we allowed to get off the ship?"
You're not
And he
supposed to.
said, "Amar lahen mutarim atem shekvar hayisi mistakel v'hayinu besoch hatchum ad shelo chashecha." Yeah, he says we were already in. I was watching with my telescope. I had a telescope.
But you're not supposed to get off when the ship docks, I don't
Hmm?
think. If the ship's docks on Shabbos, you're not supposed to get off, I don't think. Right?
Well, if you were not inside the Tchum, you're not allowed to get off.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So because you're now stuck inside your Daled Amas. Um,
Right.
okay. So nonetheless, so in this particular case, Rabban Gamliel said, "Don't worry. I had the I was watching with my telescope, and we were already inside the Tchum by the time Shabbos came in, so we're good." Um, okay, Gimel. Misha Yatsa Birshus. Now, sometimes you have a heter to leave your tchum. Pikuach nefesh is
Mhm.
like obviously the big one. That's
Right.
pikuach nefesh takes many forms. Whether you're a doctor going on call, a midwife going to give birth to help somebody to give birth, um, a soldier going out to rescue a neighboring city from attack. All of these are heterim for leaving your tchum on Shabbos. Um, and now, um, so now they're on the road and on the way to the place where they're going to do whatever they need to do. But Amrullah, and they said to him, "Kfar nasa maseh. Don't worry about it. It's all okay. Woman's given birth. The patient has recovered. The goyim have fled. There's nothing else to do." So now you're sort of somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you've got nothing else to do. Okay, yeshlo alpine amal chol ruach. Now he now has nonetheless got 2,000 amas in all directions. So he doesn't have any issue with being stuck in his dalad amas. He's got his 2,000 amas. But im hayabasochatchum, and if he's inside another city, ki'ilu lo yatsa. Or if he's inside the city that he originally came from, it's like he never left it. And Shakol hayotim lahatzil chozrin limkoman, because anyone who left in order to save, to do a pikuach nefesh, they are allowed to return to their place. Chozrin limkoman. Let's just see. So yeah, people are allowed even to return to the place that they came from. And I think this is probably the basis for the heter that the Hatzalah guys have today. Uh,
Mhm.
that if they're on call on Shabbos and they have to go from Beit Shemesh to Yerushalayim, definitely outside the Tchum. Um, so there, I mean, the trip to Yerushalayim, obviously they're allowed to do because they're busy being osik with the Pikuach Nefesh. But the fact that they're allowed to return is possibly based on this Mishnah. But there's a sorrow to it as well, which Rav Moshe said out explicitly is that if you tell them that they can't return, then they're going to be less keen on uh, on actually going out in the first place, and they might underplay it if it's a real case of Pikuach Nefesh, to say, you don't really need to go to the hospital, because in the back of his mind he's got this thought like, I don't want to get stuck in Yerushalayim.
Right. No.
Okay, so the Hatzalah guys are allowed to return on Shabbos, which is not so if like a man is taking his wife who he thinks is in labor. He takes his wife to the hospital on Shabbos, and then the contractions stop, and they say to her, "There's nothing happening here. Go home." Well, now it's Shabbos, and they can't go home.
Right. Right.
So because there's no pikuach nefesh on the way back, he doesn't have that heter that the Hatzalah guys have. Okay. Misha Yashav B'derech. So there was a guy who was traveling on Friday. But Ahmad, and so he sat, he plunked himself down and said, "Okay, it's almost Shabbos. Let me just put myself down over here and make my Shabbos Suda over here." And he sits down in this random place in the field, and sits down and makes his place there on Shabbos. And now he wakes up in the morning and everything's light, and he stands up and he sees like that he's 500 meters from the nearest house of the town. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm within the tchum of the town. Or I mean, if I'd known that, I would have just like been koneh mashrita inside the town. Lo yikanes. Since his intention was not to be part of the town, he may not treat. I mean, he can enter the town as far as his 2,000 amas go from where he plunked himself down, but he didn't have intention to be part of the town, and therefore, says Rabbi Meir, he is not part of the town. He only has 2,000 amas in every direction. He does okay, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yoda Yikanes, he says no. The fact that he was inside the Tuchum automatically makes him part of the town. Okay, and just like if as we're going to learn later, if you make an Erev Techumen and you place your food in outside the town, but still inside the 2,000 amas of the Tchum, it's clearly you've done nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Still inside you're still inside the Tchum of the city, and therefore you're still like a Ben Ha'ir.
Wait,
Okay.
wait. Mishnah is about around a tree. If you're making the chum over there, I forget what something like that. We'll see. We'll see coming up.
It was because if it's above 10 tefachim in the tree, then it's inaccessible. It's considered inaccessible because it's muktzah. You're
Uh,
not allowed to use the tree above 10 tefachim. So you're allowed to
right,
sit on the tree stump because you're resting your back against the part that's below 10 tefachim, but you're not allowed to climb a tree.
right,
It was
right,
all because you might come to break off branches or whatever. So
right. There was something about the tree. I will see later on. I know it's going to come up.
yeah.
Okay.
It says
Uh,
Rabbi Yehuda, so says Rabbi Yehuda, Maaseh hayav nichnas Rabbi Tarfon below miskavein. And there was a situation where this is exactly what happened to Rabbi Tarfon. He pitched camp outside the town on Erev Shabbos, not knowing that the town was just over the next hill. And then when he discovered that he was within the Tchum, he treated himself as a resident of the city. And this is the halacha, like Rabbi Yehuda.
right.
All right,
I'm sorry.
Aleph Gimel.
Gimel, right. The crossbeam of which they spoke, is wide enough to hold an arik. The arik is half a brick measuring 3 fists. It is sufficient for the crossbeam to be 1 fist wide to hold an arik lengthwise. Wide enough to hold an arik and strong enough to hold an arik. Rabbi Yehuda says wide, even if it is not strong. If it was made of straw or reed, we view it as if it was made of metal, bent. We view it as if it was straight, rounded. We view it as if it was squared. Anything which has a circumference of 3 fists has a diameter of 1 fist. I like your picture. I don't know where you found the picture like that with the the brick and the curve and the thing.
So
The,
which picture are you talking about?
the picture that you sent me with there was a pole just like this, there was a brick on it and all
Oh
that.
yes, yes, that's
Yeah.
AI.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, every one of my pictures that I put on the thumbnails of our videos is it's all AI generated.
Really? What do you
You,
just say? Make a picture like this and that, and that's what you do?
you take a look inside the Master Mishna group in WhatsApp. Every single one of those pictures, you scroll up, every one of them are generated with AI.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Dalit Aleph. Right, Dalit Aleph.
It's
Uh,
Tessa,
Tess
inshallah.
Aleph. I want to say Aleph. Tess. Said Rabbi Kiva, from where do we learn that an object of idolatry transmits tumor contamination by carrying, like a menstruate? For it is stated, cast them away like a menstruate. Go out. Say to you shall you say to it, just as a menstruate transmits tumor contamination by carrying, so does an object of idolatry transmit tumor contamination by carrying. And for where do we learn that a ship is not susceptible to tumor contamination? For it is stated, the weight of a ship in the midst of a sea. From where do we learn that a garden bed that is 6 by 6 handbreadth may be sown with 5 types of weeds, four on the 4 sides of the garden bed and one in the center? For it is stated, for like the earth it will give forth its plant, and like a garden it will cause its seeds to grow. Its seed is not stated, but its seeds. From where do we learn that a woman who emits semen on the third day is tummy? For it is stated, be prepared for 3 days. From where do we learn that we bathe the circumcised infant on the third day, even if it falls on Shabbos? For it is stated, and it came to pass on the third day when they were in pain. From where do we learn that a strip of red wool is tied on the head of the goat that is sent out? For it is stated, if your sins will be like crimson, they will become white as snow. Okay.
Okay.
And we have Uma. We have Yud Aleph Aleph. One may not put a fig pate or dried figs into a fish brine because he spoils them, but one may put wine into brine. One may not perfume oil, but one may make wine into honeyed wine. And one may not boil true and wine because he diminishes it. Rabbi Yehuda permits because he improves it. Date honey, apple wine, and winter grape vinegar on all other fruit juices of truma. Rabbi Eliezer declares them liable to the value and the added fifth, but Rabbi Shua exempts. Rabbi Eliezer declares them unclean as liquid, and Rabbi Shua says the sages not count the 7 liquids as those who count spices, but they said that even 7 kinds of spices are unclean and all the other liquids are clean. One may not turn grapes into honey or apples into wine, or winter grapes into vinegar, and no other fruit or truma or mysis may be changed from its natural state, excepting only olives and grapes. One does not receive 40 lashes on account of oil except for what issues from olives and grapes, and no liquid is brought for a bikurim except that issues from olives and grapes. And nothing is rendered unclean as a liquid except what issues from olives and grapes, and one does not offer up on the altar except what issues from olives and grapes. Okay. Go on to mikvos.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Vav Hey. If a chest or box was in the sea, one may not immerse anything in it unless it has a hole the size of a water skin tube. Rabbi Yehuda says in the case of a large vessel, 4 tefachim. In the case of a small vessel, the greater part. If it was a sack or a basket, one may immerse things in it. However, it is because its water is mingled. If they were placed under a pipe, they do not disqualify a mikvah. One may even immerse them and lift them out of the usual way. If there is a broken earthenware vessel in a mikveh, and one immerse them therein, utensils, they become purified from their tumor, but they are still tummy on account of the earthenware vessel. If the water flowed over it, even a little, they are tahor. If a spring issues into an oven and one went down and immersed himself therein, he becomes tahor, but his hands are tummy. If there were water above it at the height of the hands, his hands too are tahor. And pulling.
Hold on a second. Just did we do the right number of Mishnayos there? Just checking what we were supposed to be up to. We're supposed to do Zion as well.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay. The mingling of the volts must be as much as the size of the water skin tube as it thickens its hole, which is the area of which 2 fingers can rotate. If there is a doubt whether there was as much as a water skin tube or whether there was not as much as a water skin tube, it is invalid because it is required by Torah law. Similarly, an olive-sized corpse, so olive size of a corpse, and an olive size of a carcass, and a lentil size of creeping things, anything that settles in the opening that is the size of water skin reduces it. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says any organism that develops from the water is tahor. Okay. And-
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Solid above. If the hind legs of an animal were severed below the joint, it is fit. Above the joint, it is unfit. And likewise, if the meaning of the sinews were removed, and if the bone was broken, if the greater part of the flesh remained, the slaughtering rendered tahor. Otherwise, the slaughtering does not render tahor. If one slaughters an animal and finds an amniotic sac on it, in it, one that is not fastidious may eat it, and one does not contract the tumor of foods or the tumor of the velos. If he intends to eat it, he contracts the tumor of foods, but not the tumor of the velos. If part of an amniotic sac came out and it is prohibited to be eaten, it is a sign of a fetus in a woman and the sign of a fetus in an animal. If an animal carrying its first fetus aboard an amniotic sac, he may throw it to the dogs, but in the case of consecrated animals, it must be buried. We may not bury it at the crossroads, or we may not hang it on a tree because of the ways of the Emorites. Okay, Majid
One more. Wait,
I
no,
know,
no,
I forgot.
no, no Hajj Allah over here.
I know. I forgot to take out the camera.
On to the next parak.
Um,
Really, it's a new volume after 4 chapters?
yeah, hey, Olive, correct? Yeah. The law of it and its offspring applies both in the land of Israel and outside the land, when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist, to consecrated animals and to consecrated animals. How so? If one slaughters it and its offspring, which are unconsecrated animals outside the temple confined, both of them are fit, and the second one incurs 40 lashes. Consecrated animals outside, the first one is liable to karas, and both are unfit, and both incur 40 lashes. Unconsecrated animals inside, both are unfit, and the second one incurs 40 lashes. Consecrated animals inside, the first one is fit, and he is in the exempt, and the second one incurs 40 lashes, and it is unfit. Okay,
Okay.
and we have Sota, Aleph Gimel. The following women are forbidden to eat truma: one who says, I am defiled to you, or one who about whom witnesses testify that she is defiled, and one who says, I will not drink, or one whose husband does not want to give her to drink, or one whose husband cohabitated with her on the way. How must he deal with her? He takes her to the court of that place, and they designate 2 learned men to accompany him, lest he cohabitates with her on the way. Rabbi Yehuda says her husband can be trusted regarding her. They bring her up to the high court in Jerusalem, where they still feel in her in the manner in which they still feel in witnesses' capital cases. They say to her, my daughter, wine causes much impropriety, levity causes much, and childlessness causes much, and bad neighbors cause much. Do for the sake of his great name, which is written in holiness, so that it not be erased in the water. And they relate to her incidents which neither she nor her father's family deserve to hear. If she said, I am defiled, they write a receipt for a marriage contract and a divorce. But if she says, I am pure, they take her up to the eastern gate, which was opposite the Nicanor gate, where they give the women suspected of adultery the bitter waters to drink. Purify the women who give given birth, and purify those who have recovered from tzras. A Kohen may take hold of her garments, and if they tore, they tore, and if they became tattered, they became tattered, until he uncovers her bosom and undoes her hair. The Yehuda says, if her bosom was comely, he did not uncover it. If her hair was comely, he did not loosen it. Okay. All right, good.
Okay. That's
Okay.
it.
I'm sorry I gave you that big story about that letter, but it
No
really
worries.